Hello, my dear listener, and welcome back to Super English Talks. This is the place where we don't just learn English, we also talk about ideas that help you grow as a person. I'm really happy you're here with me today. In this episode, we're going to talk about something that sounds very simple, but is actually quite hard to do in today's world, focusing on one thing at a time. You might be thinking, that doesn't sound too difficult. But let's be honest, how often do you really focus on just one thing? Maybe you're studying English while checking your phone, replying to a message, and listening to music at the same time. Or maybe you're working on something important for your job, but you keep switching between emails, social media, and different browser tabs. If that sounds like you, don't worry, you're not alone. We all do it. This kind of multitasking has become so normal that it feels almost natural. It even makes us feel busy, and sometimes being busy feels like being productive. But here's the truth, being busy doesn't always mean you're doing meaningful work. Sometimes multitasking actually slows us down. It divides our attention, makes our work less effective, and leaves us feeling tired and unfocused. So, in today's episode, we're going to explore why multitasking might be hurting us more than helping us. We'll talk about how multitasking affects your brain and your energy, why it can make you feel less confident, and what you can do instead, something called deep work. Deep work is a way of working where you give all your attention to one task, completely, without distractions. It's not about doing more things. It's about doing one thing well. Now, don't worry, this isn't going to be a boring lecture. We're going to keep it real. I'll share some simple examples, maybe a few personal stories, and give you a chance to reflect on your own habits. This is not about being perfect. It's about being intentional. It's about learning to slow down and focus on what really matters. And yes, this topic also connects to your English learning journey. The way you study English can be deeply affected by how focused or distracted you are. If you're always multitasking while learning, your brain can't fully absorb the new information. You might spend more time studying, but actually learn less. So here's a little question for you to think about. When was the last time you gave one thing your full attention? No distractions, no switching between apps, just you and the task in front of you. If it's hard to remember, that's completely okay. You're not the only one. The good news is that focus is like a muscle. You can train it again. So, take a deep breath. Maybe grab a cup of coffee or tea. Let's slow down together. It's time to stop trying to do everything at once and start focusing on what really matters. All right, let's get into it. What is deep work, really? Let's talk more about this idea called deep work. You might have heard this term before. It's often mentioned in books about productivity, learning, or study techniques. But what does it really mean? Deep work means giving your complete attention to one single task. Just one. You work on it with focus, with purpose, and without letting distractions get in the way. It's the opposite of working with half your mind on one thing and the other half thinking about something else. When you're doing deep work, you're not checking your phone every 5 minutes. You're not jumping between 10 open tabs. You're not thinking about what you'll have for dinner. Instead, you're fully there, with your mind, your time, and your energy focused on one goal. Deep work is usually quiet. It doesn't look exciting from the outside. It's not loud or dramatic, but it's powerful. It's where real learning happens. It's where you grow, improve, and actually feel proud of what you've done. Now, let's compare this with something called shallow work. What is shallow work? Now that we've talked about deep work, let's look at its opposite, something called shallow work. Shallow work is everything that feels like work, but doesn't really help you grow or think deeply. It's the kind of work that keeps you busy but not necessarily productive. For example, It's answering emails again and again. It's scrolling through social media while pretending to study. It's quickly replying to messages, organizing files, or sitting in meetings where you're only half listening. These activities fill up your day. You look busy. You might even feel like you've done a lot. But at the end of the day, you realize you didn't really make progress on the things that truly matter. Shallow work doesn't stretch your mind. It doesn't challenge you. It doesn't take you closer to your goals. It's kind of like fast food, easy to consume, quick, and sometimes satisfying, but not very healthy if that's all you eat. The myth of multitasking. Here's something many people believe. Multitasking is smart. If I do more things at once, I'll finish faster. You've probably heard people say things like, "I'm great at multitasking. I'm more productive when I do many things at once." But science tells a different story. Research shows that our brains can't actually focus on two complex tasks at the same time. What we do instead is switch between tasks very quickly. And every time we switch, our brain loses a little bit of focus and energy. This is called the switching cost. You might not notice it right away, but it slowly adds up. By the end of the day, you feel tired, distracted, and maybe even frustrated because you were busy, but not truly effective. A simple example. Let me give you a simple situation. Imagine you're trying to write an email in English. You're focused, typing your ideas, when suddenly, ding, a notification appears on your phone. You check it. Then you remember you wanted to look something up on Google. You open a new tab, scroll a little, maybe check another website, and before you know it, you've completely forgotten what you were writing. The task that should have taken 10 minutes now takes 30. Sound familiar? When your attention is divided, everything takes longer, and the quality of your work goes down. You make more mistakes, miss important details, and when you're done, you don't feel proud of your work. Deep down, you know you didn't give it your best. Why we keep multitasking? So if multitasking doesn't really work, why do we keep doing it? Well, part of the reason is that being busy feels good. When we have many things going on, we feel like we're achieving more. Even if nothing is really finished, the movement gives us a sense of progress. Another reason is that it's hard to focus on just one thing. Deep work can feel uncomfortable at first. It's slow. It's quiet. Your brain might say, "This is boring, let's check the phone." But here's the secret. If you stay with the task, if you push through that first 10 or 15 minutes, something amazing starts to happen. You begin to find your rhythm. You start to feel connected to what you're doing. Your thoughts become clearer. You feel calmer. This state has a special name, flow. The magic of flow. Flow is when you're completely absorbed in what you're doing. Time seems to disappear. You're not thinking about your to-do list, or what you'll eat for lunch, or who just texted you. Your brain is fully present. And the work you do in this state, it's often your best work. Think about this for a second. When was the last time you were in that state of flow? Maybe you were writing, reading, drawing, coding, or practicing English, and you got so into it that you forgot about everything else. That's deep work. That's where real learning happens. That's where progress and creativity live. Deep work is for everyone. Now, you might be thinking, that sounds nice, but I'm not a writer or an artist. I'm just learning English or working a regular job. Here's the good news. Deep work is for everyone. You don't need to be a genius or have a fancy office or buy expensive tools. You just need the intention to focus and the discipline to say no to distractions, even for a short time. You can start small. Maybe 20 or 30 minutes a day of full focus. No phone, no background noise, no switching between apps. Just you and your task. It might feel difficult at first, but with time, your brain will learn to love that feeling of clarity. You'll start finishing tasks faster, understanding more deeply, and actually enjoying your work or study sessions. So, as you move forward, remember this. You don't need to do more. You just need to do better. And that starts with giving your full attention to one thing at a time. Becoming aware of your habits. So, as we continue this episode, I want you to start thinking about your own habits. How often are you really present with what you're doing? How often are you fully focused on your work, your study, or even your conversations? And here's another question. How much time do you spend switching, opening different apps, checking your phone, scrolling, or jumping from one task to another? You don't need to change everything overnight. That's not realistic. But simply noticing these habits is the first and most important step. Because once you start to notice how easily your attention moves from one thing to another, you'll begin to see how it affects your focus. And once you experience what deep work feels like, that clear, calm state of full concentration, you'll start to want more of it. You'll begin to value your time differently. You'll protect your focus more carefully. And that's when real change begins. That's when the magic starts to happen. The illusion of multitasking. Now, let's talk honestly about something that almost all of us do every single day, sometimes without even realizing it. I'm talking about multitasking, doing 2 or 3 things at the same time. You might even be doing it right now. Maybe you're listening to this podcast while cooking, sending a message, or scrolling through your phone. And hey, no judgment here, we've all done it. In fact, the world we live in encourages multitasking. People often wear it like a badge of honor. You'll hear people proudly say things like, "I'm great at multitasking," as if it's a superpower. But let's ask a real question. Is multitasking actually helping us? A common example. Let's imagine a simple, familiar situation. You sit down to study English. You open your notebook or your laptop. You start reading or maybe doing a writing or listening exercise. Then, ping, a notification pops up on your phone. You check it quickly. Just a second, you tell yourself. Maybe you reply to a message, maybe you scroll for a minute or two. Then you come back to your English practice. But something feels different. You've lost your focus. You're not sure where you stopped. You reread the same sentence again and again. You start to feel tired or even a little bit annoyed. That, my friend, is the hidden cost of multitasking. It's not just about losing time. It's about losing mental energy. What happens in your brain? There's a scientific term for this: cognitive switching cost. It sounds complicated, but the idea is very simple. Every time your brain switches from one task to another, even for a few seconds, it takes time and effort to refocus. It's like when your computer has too many tabs open and starts to slow down. Your brain works the same way. You might think, oh, it's just 5 seconds to check my phone. But those 5 seconds aren't really just 5 seconds. Your brain has to restart the original task, rebuild the same level of focus, and find the same flow again. And those small moments of distraction add up. By the end of the day, you feel mentally tired, even if you haven't worked for very long. The quality of your work. Multitasking doesn't just steal your time, it also hurts the quality of your work. When your attention is divided, your brain can't think as clearly. You make more mistakes. You forget small details. You miss things that you normally wouldn't. Think about it. That email you wrote while replying to a text message, it probably has more errors than usual. That English sentence you wrote while watching a YouTube video, maybe it doesn't sound quite right. When your mind is jumping between tasks, you're never fully in any of them. And that means your performance drops. The busy trap. What's tricky is that multitasking feels productive, even when it's not. That's why we call it the illusion of multitasking. You feel busy. You feel like you're doing a lot. But in reality, you're often moving slowly through many tasks without actually finishing any of them properly. It's like walking in circles. You're moving, but you're not really going anywhere. At the end of the day, you've done a lot of something, but not much that truly matters. The link between multitasking and stress. Now, let's talk about something most people don't realize is connected to multitasking: stress. When your brain is constantly switching between things, it never gets a real break. You're always on, always reacting, always checking, always catching up. That constant mental activity creates tension, even if you don't feel it right away. Over time, it builds up. You start to feel mentally tired, easily distracted, and sometimes even overwhelmed. This ongoing pressure can lead to mental fatigue, stress, and eventually burnout, that feeling of being completely drained and unmotivated. The truth is, multitasking doesn't make life easier. It makes it noisier. It fills your day with activity, but it empties your mind of clarity. And in the end, what we really need is not more things to do, but more focus on the things that matter most. The reality of burnout. Burnout is something many people experience, even if they don't realize it at first. It's when your mind and body feel completely drained, like you have no energy, no motivation, and no excitement left for the things you used to care about. It's not just physical tiredness. It's also mental and emotional. You might wake up already feeling tired. You might start avoiding tasks you normally enjoy. And unfortunately, burnout is becoming more and more common today, especially in a world where we're always connected and always on. How multitasking affects your mood. Multitasking doesn't just affect your productivity, it also affects your mood. When your attention is split between many things, it becomes harder to enjoy any of them. You start to feel distracted, frustrated, or even overwhelmed. You might feel like you're not doing enough, even though you've been busy all day. That's the emotional trap of multitasking. It doesn't just waste time, it also makes you feel worse about how you're spending it. Let me ask you this. Have you ever reached the end of a long, busy day and thought, wait, what did I even accomplish today? That empty feeling often comes from shallow work and multitasking. You were active, but not focused. Your day was full, but your results were thin. And that can lead to even more stress. Because when you feel like you didn't achieve enough, your mind says, I'll just work harder tomorrow. And so the cycle continues: busyness, frustration, burnout. Breaking the cycle. So, what's the solution? It starts with awareness. When you notice yourself multitasking, pause. Take a breath and ask, is this really helping me, or is it just keeping me busy? Then, try a small experiment. Do one thing, just one thing, for a short amount of time. Maybe 10 or 15 minutes. No phone. No notifications. No switching between apps. Just you and your task. You might be surprised at how good it feels. You might even realize that you can get more done in less time, simply because your brain isn't fighting for focus. Remember, your attention is one of your most valuable resources. Where you put it matters. If you give small pieces of it to everything, you'll never give your full attention to anything. But if you learn to focus, even for short periods, everything changes. Your work becomes deeper. Your learning becomes stronger. And your stress levels go down because your brain finally gets the space it needs to do what it does best: focus on one thing at a time. A culture of busy. Now, let's take a step back and talk about something we see everywhere, maybe even in ourselves. Have you noticed how in today's world, being busy has become almost like a badge of honor? It's something people say with pride. You hear it all the time. How are you? Oh, busy. How's work? So busy. It's as if the busier we are, the more valuable or successful we must be. Being busy has become a kind of status symbol. But here's the problem. Being busy isn't the same as being productive. Being busy means you're doing a lot. You're moving, reacting, checking, answering. But being productive means you're doing the right things, the things that actually move you forward, help you learn, grow, or reach your goals. There's a big difference between activity and achievement. Motion versus progress. Let's think about a normal day. Maybe you spend the morning replying to emails, checking messages, scrolling through social media, and jumping between small tasks. You say yes to everything, trying to do it all. At the end of the day, you're exhausted. You worked all day, but when you stop to think about it, you realize you didn't really finish anything meaningful. That's because motion isn't the same as progress. Just because you're moving doesn't mean you're moving forward. It's like running on a treadmill, lots of motion, no direction. You feel tired because you've been working hard, but you're still in the same place. And the truth is, many of us fall into this trap without even realizing it. We confuse being busy with being productive. We fill every moment with activity, but forget to ask ourselves, is this actually helping me grow? Slowing down, are you busy to avoid the hard work? We keep filling our days with tasks, meetings, messages, and notifications because being busy feels safe. But sometimes busy is just a way to avoid the work that really matters. Why? Because the real work, the deep work, is harder. It's uncomfortable. It asks for focus, patience, and time. So instead of starting that big, meaningful task, we do small, easy things. Clean the house instead of writing, check email instead of studying, update the to-do list instead of beginning the first item. Those small tasks are safe. If we're always rushing, we don't have to face the fear of doing something difficult and possibly failing. We don't have to sit with self-doubt. But staying busy has a cost. It wears you down. Your mind gets tired. You lose clarity. You stop enjoying your work. When everything feels urgent, nothing feels important. You live in a constant loop of doing, with no time to think, create, or rest. Ask yourself honestly, are you getting things done or just staying busy? Are the things on your list helping you grow, or are they only filling time? Think about two learners. One jumps between 3 apps, watches multiple videos, and does little bits of grammar and vocabulary. They are busy all day, but they rarely go deep into anything. Their learning stays shallow. Another picks one task, for example, writing a short paragraph in English, and gives it full attention for 30 minutes. No phone, no tabs, no switching. That person may look less busy, but they make real progress. One is living on the surface. The other is going deeper and actually improving. The good news, you don't have to live in that rush. You can slow down. You can choose to do less and do it better. But it takes intention. You must be willing to stop, question habits, and change your idea of productivity. Productivity isn't how many boxes you tick. It's whether those boxes move you closer to your goals and the person you want to become. Next time you say, I'm so busy, pause and ask, busy with what? Motion or progress? The power of focusing on one thing. Now imagine focusing on just one clear, meaningful task. Not 5 things at once, one. At first it might feel strange or even uncomfortable. In a world that praises doing more, slowing down can feel wrong. But here's the simple truth. When you focus deeply on one thing, you usually get more done and you do it better. Why focusing on one thing works? Better quality. When your attention isn't split, You notice important details and make fewer mistakes. Faster progress. Paradoxically, single tasking often finishes tasks quicker because you avoid the switching cost. More satisfaction. Doing your best work feels good. You finish a task knowing you put your full effort into it. More creativity. Deep focus gives your brain room to connect ideas and solve problems. Less stress. You stop juggling constant interruptions and feel calmer. A quick practice you can try right now. Pick one small but meaningful task. Write a paragraph. Read one article. Practice speaking for 10 minutes. Set a timer for 10 to 30 minutes. Start with 10 if that feels hard. Put your phone away, close extra tabs, and give only that task your attention. When the timer rings, notice how you feel. Did you get more done than you expected? Did the work feel clearer? That short habit trains your brain to focus. Over time, you can increase the length of those sessions and the depth of the work. Remember, focus is a skill, not a trait. The more you practice single tasking, the stronger it gets. You don't need perfect silence or a perfect environment. You just need the intention to protect short blocks of time for real work. The power of focusing on one thing. Some of the most successful people in the world understand this idea very well. They don't try to do everything at once. Instead, they choose one important thing and give it their full attention. Steve Jobs, the co-founder of Apple, once said that focus is not just about saying yes to what you want, it's also about saying no to what you don't. He believed that doing a few things really well was far more powerful than trying to do everything. And he was right. Writers, scientists, musicians, and entrepreneurs all know that deep focus is where real progress happens. When you give something your full attention, you create better results and feel more connected to your work. Now, think about your own life for a moment. Have you ever been working on something? Maybe writing, studying, or creating, and suddenly time seemed to disappear? You were so focused that you forgot to check your phone or think about anything else. You were completely in the moment. That state is called flow. Flow is one of the most powerful mental states we can experience. When you're in flow, your mind feels clear and calm. You're not distracted. You're not worrying or doubting yourself. You're just doing the work. And it feels good, not only because you're being productive, but because you're fully present. You're using your full ability. You're right there, doing one thing that matters. The more you practice focusing on one thing, the easier it becomes. At first, your brain might resist. You might feel bored, restless, or uncomfortable. You might want to check your messages or open another app. That's normal. Your brain is used to switching all the time. But if you stay with the task, even just for 10 or 15 minutes, something starts to change. You begin to feel calmer. You get into a rhythm. Slowly, your brain learns that this kind of focus is not only possible, it's rewarding. Focusing on one thing also builds something that multitasking never can: confidence. When you give your full attention to one task and complete it with care, you feel proud. You can see your progress. And that progress gives you energy. It motivates you to keep going. You start to believe in yourself more because you can see that your effort leads to real results. When you multitask, everything feels half done. You jump from one thing to another, but nothing feels complete. That can make you feel tired and even discouraged. But when you focus deeply on one task, you finish it, and that feeling of completion gives you power. It shows you that you are capable of doing meaningful work. Focus also brings clarity. When your mind is full of distractions, it's hard to think clearly. Thoughts feel messy, like a room full of noise. But when you sit down with one clear goal and block out everything else, your thinking becomes sharp. You start to understand things better. You solve problems faster. You even become more creative because your mind finally has space to connect ideas. It's like cleaning a messy room. Once it's clean, you can see where everything is, and it feels easier to move around. And here's the best part. When you build focus, you also build momentum. Momentum means forward movement, one good action leading to another. When you do one thing well, you naturally want to do the next thing well too. You start to feel in control of your time and your energy. That's how small, focused actions lead to big results over time. Let me give you a simple example. Imagine you're learning English, and this week you decide to focus only on listening. You don't jump between grammar books and vocabulary apps. You don't try to do everything at once. You just focus on listening, maybe 20 or 30 minutes a day. You can use podcasts, audiobooks, or short videos, whatever feels interesting to you. After a few days, you start to notice something. You understand more. You hear words more clearly. You begin to recognize patterns in how people speak. You feel more confident. That's the power of focusing on one thing. By going deep instead of wide, you make real progress. So remember this. You don't need to do more. You just need to do what matters with full attention. That's where growth happens. That's where confidence builds. That's where your best work and your best learning begins. Real-life setbacks and mental blocks. So far, we've talked about the power of focus, how much you can achieve when you give your full attention to just one thing. But let's be honest. It's not always that easy, is it? Even when we want to focus, even when we know it's the right thing to do, something inside us often gets in the way. And that something isn't always our phone, social media, or emails. Sometimes the biggest distractions are happening right inside our own minds. Let's talk about some of the most common mental blocks that make deep work difficult. Things like perfectionism, self-doubt, and the fear of failure. They may seem quiet, but they are powerful. They often stop us before we even begin. Perfectionism. Have you ever told yourself, I'll start when I'm ready, or it has to be perfect, or it's not worth doing? That's perfectionism speaking. It makes us believe that everything has to be done the right way from the very beginning. But here's the problem, the right way is never clear. So what happens? We wait. We plan. We overthink. And in the end, we don't take action. Perfectionism often looks like high standards, but it's really just fear in disguise. The fear of making mistakes, of looking foolish, of not being good enough. But here's the truth. Progress is always better than perfection. You can't improve something that doesn't exist. You can only grow once you start. So remember this simple rule. Done is better than perfect. Every great writer, artist, or entrepreneur started with something imperfect, a messy first draft, a simple idea, a rough version. What matters is that they started. They learned, adjusted, and improved along the way. That's how real growth happens. Self-doubt. Now let's talk about another big one, self-doubt. That small voice inside that says, you can't do this. You're not good enough. Who do you think you are? Almost everyone hears that voice, especially when doing something new or challenging. Maybe you felt it when speaking English out loud or writing something in a new language. You want to try, but then the doubt appears. What if I make a mistake? What if people laugh? What if I fail? Sound familiar? You're not alone. I know that feeling very well. Let me share something personal with you. A few years ago, I wanted to create a project just like this podcast, something that combined language learning with personal growth. I had the idea. I had my notes. I even started recording. But I didn't publish anything for months. Why? Because I kept thinking, it's not good enough yet. I would record, then delete. Record again. Rewrite the script. change the title, question my voice, my accent, my message. Every time I got close to finishing, self-doubt pulled me back. Looking back now, I realized something important. I wasn't waiting for the perfect version, I was just afraid. Afraid of failing. Afraid of being judged. Afraid of not being enough. But one day, I asked myself a simple question. What's really stopping me from starting? And the answer wasn't about time, tools, or skills. It was about fear, my own fear. That moment changed everything. Because once you name your fear, you can face it. Once you face it, you can take one small step forward, even if you're still scared. And that's exactly what I did. I took that small, imperfect step. I published the first real version of this podcast. And that single step changed everything. Maybe you've had a similar experience. Maybe you want to apply for a job, write a book, start a blog, or speak more confidently in English, but something always holds you back. You tell yourself you'll start tomorrow, when you're more ready, more confident, or more skilled. But tomorrow keeps moving further away. Here's what I've learned. You don't become confident first and then take action. You take action first, and that's how you build confidence. Confidence is the result of doing things, not waiting to feel ready. Strategies for deep work in daily life. If any of what I just said sounds familiar, I want you to pause for a second and ask yourself something simple but powerful. What's really stopping me from starting? Is it fear of failure? Is it that little voice in your head saying you're not ready yet? Whatever it is, name it. Bring it into the light. Because once you see it clearly, you can start to move past it. Here's the truth. Setbacks are normal. Everyone who's ever done something meaningful, whether it's starting a business, writing a book, or learning a new language, has felt fear, made mistakes, and doubted themselves. It's not a sign that you're failing. It's just part of being human. The difference between people who move forward and those who stay stuck isn't that one group feels fearless. It's that they act despite the fear. They start anyway. They take small steps. They learn along the way. And little by little, they build confidence. You don't need to feel 100% ready. You don't need a perfect plan. You just need to start one small action at a time. So if you're listening right now and there's something you've been putting off, maybe you've been wanting to start a project, practice English more seriously, or take a new opportunity, stop and ask yourself again, what's really stopping me? And once you hear the answer, I want you to gently say to yourself, I hear you, but I'm doing it anyway. Because you can. You're allowed to begin, even if you're scared, even if you're unsure. Remember, the first step, no matter how small, is still a step forward. Strategies for deep work in daily life. Now that we've talked about why deep work matters and the mental blocks that hold us back, let's get practical. Let's talk about how you can bring deep focus into your everyday life. Because yes, the idea of full focus sounds great in theory. But between jobs, school, family, and everything else, it can feel impossible to know where to start. So here are some simple, realistic strategies that actually work, things you can start doing today. 1. Time blocking. The first one is something called time blocking. It might sound like a fancy productivity method, but really, it's just about planning when you'll do your deep work. Here's how it works. You choose a small part of your day, maybe 30 minutes, maybe an hour, and you block it off for one focused task. During that time, you don't check your phone. You don't reply to messages. You don't switch between tabs or multitask. You choose one single activity, like writing, reading, studying, or practicing English, and you stay with it until the time is up. Time blocking works because it removes guesswork. You're not waiting to feel ready or hoping you'll find a free moment. You decide ahead of time when you'll focus. And here's the amazing part. Even 25 minutes of deep focus can be more powerful than 2 hours of distracted multitasking. You don't need an entire afternoon. You just need a small window of time that's protected from interruptions. 2. Turn off notifications. That brings us to the second strategy, turning off notifications. Notifications might seem small, but they're one of the biggest enemies of deep work. Every ping, vibration, or banner steals a bit of your attention. Even if you don't open it, your brain still notices it. It wonders what it is. And suddenly, your focus is gone. Try this. Before your deep work session, put your phone on silent or airplane mode. Close any apps or tabs you don't need. Let people around you know you'll be focused for a short while. You'll be amazed how different your mind feels when it's not being pulled in 10 directions at once. Silence, even for a little while, can feel strange at first, but it's also freeing. It gives your brain the quiet space it needs to do real, meaningful work. More strategies for deep work in daily life. I know it sounds simple, maybe even a little obvious, but turning off notifications truly makes a big difference. We live in a world where our phones are constantly buzzing, flashing, and calling for our attention. Even if you don't pick them up, just seeing a notification is enough to break your focus. So if you want to do deep work, even for a short time, give yourself a break from that noise. Put your phone on silent, or even better, airplane mode. Close all the extra tabs on your computer. Turn off message pop-ups and email alerts. Create a small pocket of peace, even 20 or 30 minutes, where your brain doesn't have to react to anything. You'll be surprised how calm your mind starts to feel when it's not constantly being pulled in 10 different directions. 1. Choose one clear priority. Here's another powerful idea. Choose one priority per day. Not 10 things. Just one. Of course, you'll still have other small tasks to do, but this one becomes your focus point. Ask yourself, if I could only finish one thing today, what would it be? That one thing should be meaningful, something that moves you forward, helps you grow, or solves a real problem. When you finish it, you'll feel progress. And that feeling builds motivation to keep going. Let's take an example. Imagine you're learning English, and your one priority for today is to write a short paragraph in English. That's it. You're not trying to practice grammar, listening, and vocabulary all at once. You just focus on writing for 30 minutes. You think carefully. You choose your words. You check your grammar when you're done, maybe with some help. And when you finish, you feel that quiet satisfaction that comes from doing something with full attention. That's the power of a single clear priority. 2. Use a timer, work in short, focus sprints. Another small but powerful strategy is to use a timer. You might have heard of the Pomodoro technique. It's a simple method that trains your brain to focus better. Here's how it works. You set a timer for 25 minutes and work with full concentration during that time. Then you take a 5-minute break. That's it. It's simple, but it's surprisingly effective. When you focus in short bursts, your brain learns that it can concentrate deeply, at least for a little while. And just like a muscle, the more you train your focus, the stronger it gets over time. 3. Protect your focus like it matters. This next one might be the most important of all. Protect your focus time like an appointment. Imagine you had a meeting with your boss or your teacher. Would you cancel it just because someone sent you a text? Probably not. So treat your deep work session with the same respect. If you plan to work deeply from 9 to 9:30, protect that time. Don't open other apps. Don't answer calls. Don't let yourself be pulled away. And here's a bonus tip, tell the people around you. If you live with family or friends, let them know, hey, I'm doing focused work from 10 to 11. Please don't disturb me. You'll be surprised how supportive people can be when you explain your goals clearly. 4. Be kind to yourself. And finally, be kind to yourself. Deep work is not about being perfect. You'll still get distracted sometimes. You might miss a day. You might feel tired or unmotivated. That's okay. It's normal. What matters is consistency, not perfection. Even one short session of deep work a day, just one, can create amazing results over time. The key is to build the habit slowly, without pressure, and to celebrate small wins. Let's sum it up. So, to recap, block time for deep focus. Turn off notifications. Choose one clear priority. Use a timer or work in short sprints. Protect your focus time like it truly matters. And most importantly, be kind to yourself along the way. Try just one of these strategies this week. See how it feels to give your full attention to a single task. Notice the difference in your energy, your clarity, and your confidence. You don't need a perfect system. You just need a simple plan and the willingness to start. Because when you learn to focus deeply, even your language learning becomes a form of deep work, meaningful, rewarding, and real. Language learning as deep work. Let's bring everything we've talked about back to you, the listener. If you're here with me now, I know that one of your biggest goals is to improve your English. That's why you follow Super English Talks, and that's why you're listening to this episode right now. So, I want to ask you something important. What if you treated language learning as deep work? What if you gave it the same focus, attention, and care as something truly meaningful, like writing a book, building a business, or creating art? Too often, we treat language learning like background noise. We jump from app to app. We watch a video, listen to a podcast, open a vocabulary list, check a grammar rule, and then scroll through social media, all in the same hour. It feels like we're learning a lot, but most of the time, we're only half-focused. We're multitasking. We're not really absorbing anything deeply. But English, or any language, isn't something you can just download into your brain. It's a skill. And like any skill, it takes time, focus, and consistency. You don't need to study all day. You don't need 10 different apps. You don't need to watch every English video online. What you do need is intention. You need to choose one thing, just one, and give it your full attention. Turning study into deep work. Let's take an example. You're listening to this podcast. That's already a great start. But imagine if, after this episode, you paused and wrote down 3 new phrases you heard. Then you used them in your own sentences. Maybe you said them out loud, or even recorded yourself speaking. That small, focused activity would help you remember and use the language in a much deeper way. That's what deep work looks like in language learning, not just hearing words, but working with them. Another example. Let's say you're reading a short English article. You could read it quickly while checking your phone or thinking about something else. Or you could read it slowly, look up a few key words, take short notes, and try to explain what you read to someone else. The second way takes more effort, yes, but it also gives you real, lasting results. Because when you give your full focus to something, you understand it better and you remember it longer. Less, but deeper. This is where consistency matters more than speed. If you give just 30 minutes a day to one focused English activity, listening, reading, writing, or speaking, you'll make more progress in 1 month than someone who jumps between 10 tools every day without real focus. It's not about doing more. It's about doing less, more deeply. The challenge. So here's the question I want to leave you with. What if you gave your full attention to one thing today? Just one. One podcast. One writing task. One short conversation in English. No distractions. No switching between tasks. Just focused, deep learning. What could change for you? You don't need to rush. You don't need to be perfect. But if you can bring just a little deep focus into your English practice each day, you'll be amazed at how much progress you can make, not only in your vocabulary or grammar, but also in your confidence, clarity, and ability to express yourself in real, meaningful ways. We've reached the end of today's episode, and I want to leave you with a gentle reminder. In the busy, noisy world we live in, choosing focus is a powerful act. It's easy to feel overwhelmed by so many tasks, messages, and ideas pulling us in every direction. But the secret to real progress isn't doing everything at once. It's about choosing one thing, just one, and giving it your full attention. Because when you focus deeply, you don't just make faster progress. You also find calm, clarity, and joy in the process of learning itself. So take a deep breath, choose your one thing, and start slowly, calmly, and with full attention. When we look at our daily lives, it's easy to think that multitasking is the way to get more done. Maybe you've thought, if I check my messages while I work, I'll save time, or I'll listen to an English podcast while scrolling through social media. But deep down, you probably notice that this often leaves you feeling scattered, stressed, and unsatisfied with your work. That's because multitasking is an illusion. It divides your brain and drains your energy instead of helping you move forward. Instead, when you focus deeply on one task at a time, your mind can do what it does best: understand, create, and learn. When you concentrate fully, you build momentum, confidence, and clarity. Your work becomes clearer. Your learning becomes stronger. Even your motivation grows. You feel the difference because you are fully present in what you are doing. We also talked about mental blocks, things like perfectionism, self-doubt, and fear of failure. These feelings are very common, but they don't have to control you. Sometimes the hardest step is just to begin. Even if you feel unsure or afraid, remember, progress is better than perfection. Every small action counts. Practical steps can help you bring focus into your everyday life. Planning your day with time blocks, turning off distracting notifications, and choosing one clear priority per day can make a huge difference. These habits protect your attention and give your brain the space it needs to do deep work. And over time, they create a strong foundation for lasting change. Now, I invite you to pause and think quietly for a moment. What is one thing you can focus on today? It might be something small, like writing a few sentences in English, reading a short article, or practicing speaking out loud. It doesn't have to be perfect or long. The goal is to give it your full attention without rushing or switching tasks. Notice how that feels. Notice the calm, the satisfaction, and the sense of accomplishment that comes from truly focusing. Remember, focus is not about being perfect or doing everything at once. It's about being kind to yourself, setting clear priorities, and trusting that small, consistent steps will take you where you want to go. You don't have to do it all today or even this week, but you can choose to give your best to one thing. And that choice will grow into confidence, skill, and real progress. Thank you for spending this time with me on Super English Talks. I hope you found something useful today and that you feel inspired to try deep work in your life and in your language learning journey. Remember, focus is a practice. It takes patience, kindness, and courage. Be gentle with yourself and keep choosing focus over overwhelm. Until next time, take care, keep learning, and remember, one thing at a time, with your full attention, can change everything.